Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Courtney, and I always want to start off by saying thank you so much to my new and returning viewers for clicking on this video and spending some time with me today. First off, I'm so sorry. I know this video was late. I did still get it out on a Tuesday, so that's awesome, but I do try to get my videos out at the same time every week, and this week it just didn't happen. I don't feel great, but everybody in my house, my husband, the kids, they are all so sick. One of them actually tested positive for strep, so we're all just doing like, not feeling so great. But I am still out here. I'm still doing my thing. So sorry this is late, but we're just going to keep on trucking. Also, thank you so much, guys. Every time I post and upload, I get a lot of positive feedback from you guys, and I just thank you so much because I get really nervous whenever I post a video to this channel. Obviously, true crime is a very touchy subject, and I'm always worried that, like, I'm going to mistakenly, you know, just, like, get something wrong on accident. You know, I don't mean to. I do my research, but, I'm always worried I'm going to do something wrong or say something wrong, and I get so much positive feedback, and you guys are making me feel more and more comfortable every week, so thank you so much. Last week's video was heavy, to me at least, and I had a lot of you guys agree with me, saying that, like, you teared up as well, and, you know, it made you very emotional. I don't know, man, just something about it really got to me. And, like, even through this case, I've been thinking about last week's case. Like, it sticks with me and it hurts. This week's case is just as heinous and disgusting and horrible. Reminder, I do have to censor as much as I possibly can. YouTube does not like true crime channels at all. I've learned that a lot. So I do have to censor. I do have to be very careful. But I am going to try to get the messages across as much as I possibly can. Today's case is about a young girl, 18 years old. Her name is Megan Newton, and she was from Stoke-on-Trent in the UK. I hope I'm saying that correctly. This case was pretty recent. It happened on April 20th of 2019, so like 3 years ago almost. From everything that I read, Megan was an extremely smart, loving, very big-hearted, generous, sweet, very motivated young girl. She was really wanting to be the very first person in her family to go to college, and her dream was to be a physical therapist. She loved sports. She was actually a coach for a soccer team. Among other jobs, she was a very busy, very ambitious young woman. Her goal was to get a scholarship so she could go to college in the US. I'm not sure what college she was wanting to go to, but she did want to study in the US. And like I said, her end goal was to become a physical therapist. Megan did a lot of things for her community. She cared about everybody, and one of the things that she did was she volunteered to be a soccer coach for a youth team. And for this youth team, she even helped with fundraisers to help, you know, get money for whatever the team may need, whether it be new uniforms or new equipment or just whatever the team needed. So she did a lot. She was a coach for a soccer team. She was a volunteer coach for a youth soccer team. She worked multiple jobs. She cared about everybody. Somebody that you would just want to be friends with. And this is something that just, like, pulled at my heartstrings. Megan even did grocery shopping for elderly people that could not do it themselves. Like, what better? You can't get a better person. She sounds like she was just the most incredible person. She's only 18. A lot of 18-year-olds are not doing all of this stuff, volunteering and working multiple jobs. So, really amazing young woman. So on April 20th, 2019, after Megan got off of a shift at a restaurant that she worked at, so another job, she got off of her shift and she wanted to go for a night out with friends. Definitely much needed, I'm sure. Just go out with her friends and have fun. Megan had some drinks, and then she decided to go to a nightclub. Very responsible. After she went to the nightclub, she was waiting on a taxi so she could get a ride home instead of driving. While she was waiting on a taxi, she bumped into an old friend from school, and his name is Joseph Trevor. Now, Megan and Joseph, they weren't like besties or anything. They were acquaintances, but Megan saw him a lot on her nights out. So whenever she was kind of like just waiting on a taxi, he was waiting on a taxi, probably just to clear the like awkward silence, I'm sure she decided to strike up a conversation. And they were both nice to each other, and they just stood there and chatted a little bit before the taxi came. During their conversation, Joseph had told Megan that he took some drugs. Now, I'm not sure what drugs he took. I never found that out. I couldn't find anything about it. But his concern was that if he went home, his parents were going to be super pissed off to see that he was high on drugs and drunk in a very just not a good state to be in. So I think that was his way, even though it was probably true, I think that was his way of trying to get home with Megan. He even told Megan that he had a run-in with the police, and they even took a bag of whatever drugs he had away from him. But even though he was high and drunk, they let him go as long as he promised he would go home. Megan was super kind and sweet and big-hearted, like I said, so she says, hey, why don't you get in the taxi with me? You can come back to my apartment and sleep it off. Megan lived alone, by the way. She lived alone in her own apartment. So they get into the taxi together, and Joseph's dad actually messages him wondering where he is, and Joseph lies and said that he is staying the night with a male friend of his. I'm assuming that if Joseph would have said he was staying with a female, his dad probably would have been mad at that as well, so he lied. So they get back to her apartment around 4 a.m. and you can see there's a camera that is facing like right down at an angle at Megan's apartment door. So you can see on that footage Megan and Joseph walking to the door. Nobody seems like fidgety or nervous or anything like that. She's smiling. She holds up the keys. They go to the front door. It takes her a second to unlock it, and then the door opens, they go in, and the door shuts. And that is the last time that Megan is seen alive. Just an hour and a half later, Joseph is seen on that footage leaving. Then there is another camera in a parking lot that he's walking through, and you can see he's got keys and he kind of like tosses them. He gets rid of them. Then he is caught on another camera walking down what looks like just like the side of a street on a sidewalk, and he looks down at his hand and his hand is covered in blood. So a few hours later, it's morning time, daylight, the neighbors found these keys. The keys were covered in blood. They somehow knew that they were Megan's keys. So concerned neighbors, good neighbors, they go to her door, knock on it, no answer. So very bravely, they decide to use the keys to get into Megan's apartment because at this point, they're worried, you know, they find her keys, they're covered in blood, she's not answering, they make their way in. They walk in, they look around, and they find Megan laying on her bed, and she is clearly no longer alive. Of course, freaking out, I'm sure, they immediately call the police. Literally, all the police had to do was pull footage from all of the cameras I just mentioned, and they could very easily see Joseph coming to the apartment, leaving, throwing away the keys, looking at his hand, bloody hand, walking down the street, and he was very quickly identified. He must have panicked because he even told his friends that he had just done something really bad. So like I said, very quickly identified, and he was then arrested. During questioning, he told police that him and Megan had consensual sex, and then his memory went blank, and the last thing that he remembers is leaving the apartment. Bullshit. So unfortunately, this is the true story. This is what actually happened. Once Joseph got into Megan's apartment, he got on top of her and strangled her for 30 seconds, and then she went unconscious. I am hoping, and from the reports that I read, I feel like this is true. I'm really hoping in my heart that Megan stayed completely unconscious until she passed away. Joseph then went to Megan's kitchen and grabbed her knife that was in the kitchen. Her own knife in her own kitchen, went back to her laying on the bed. She was face down, and then he proceeds to stab her in the back of her neck and her back a total of 9 times. Evidence also proved that Joseph had his way with her. The evidence, you can't tell if it happened before or after the stabbing. Either way, absolutely disgusting. So when Joseph leaves, he walks out and he notices that the exit to the apartment complex is locked. You need a key to get in it. So I'm assuming maybe like a gated complex. So then he goes back into the apartment and gets Megan's keys, which means he had to have gone back, went past her lifeless body, and got her keys so he could leave. And then that's when he gets out of there and he throws the keys to the side. During his trial, which happened super fast, he pled not guilty. But then in February of 2020, he pled guilty to murder and 2 counts of, and trying to stay censored, he pled to 2 counts because he performed the act on both sides. During his trial, it also came out that there was a sexual assault allegation against him when he was only 15 years old, but unfortunately nothing ever came of it. So what was the motive? Joseph said that when he was 15, Megan was telling people that this sexual assault allegation that was held against him was true. And whenever they were together the night of April 20th, 2019, Megan brought this up and had actually apologized to him for telling this to people. Apparently this just made him snap, and he acted out on his anger and committed this disgusting crime. 1 month before this all happened with Megan, Joseph actually tried to take his own life. He was standing on a bridge, and right when he was ready to jump, some people found him and was able to talk him down. So clearly very mentally unstable just overall. Joseph was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum sentence of 21 years. Megan's mother was super pissed off at police for finding him on the night of April 20th, 2019, finding that he had drugs on him, he was high, he was drunk, and let him go. And it's suspected that he was let go because his father was an ex-police officer and his mother worked for the police station as well. So, which makes me mad too. I can just imagine how Megan's mother feels. But it pisses me off too, because it's like, oh, we know your mommy and daddy, like, go, run along now, go home. Like, no, if it was somebody random and you found them on the street and took drugs from them and they were drunk and they were high, you would throw their ass in jail. You wouldn't just be like, oh, run along, go home. So that makes me really angry. An investigation was done, and of course nothing came of it. And that is the tragic case of Megan Newton. It was a short case, but it was a case that I felt deserved to be told. All of these cases deserve to be told, no matter how long or short they are. Could not find a ton of information, but I was able to give you guys what I found. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I always love reading everybody's comments with your input on the case. And as always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Bye!